now at 5, tracking storms and the threat of severe weather. I'll have your forecast.
And attacking Iran, the praise some are offering of the situation tonight and the questions lawmakers have about why it all started in the first place.
Also running for Secretary of State, why former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard is entering the race, but not as a Republican.
And we start at 5 with a live look at Doppler 13 radar tonight as we're tracking another round of rain moving into the area.
So much rain, and there's a chance we could get some severe storms out of this. Thanks for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Dustin Grove in for Anne Marie.
And I'm Felicia Lawrence. We're in the Weather Center with Angela, who's closely watching this system.
Yes, threat of severe weather we've been talking about the last couple of days, mainly across the southern half of the state. Right now, no watches or warnings aside from that flood watch and the river flood warnings because of 1 to 3 inches of rain over the last couple of days. But here's the outline from the Storm Prediction Center, and it's where we have the greater threat that we already under a severe thunderstorm watch. That's in areas to the south and west of central Indiana. It does include the Evansville area south through the northern sections of Arkansas. That's a severe thunderstorm watch until 10 p.m. local time. Locally, in terms of severe weather, no watches, no warnings, but we do have some heavy rain and storms moving back into central Indiana right now. You can see that from Frankfort to Lebanon back through Crawfordsville. By the way, this is lifting off to the east northeast, so heads up Tipton and Kokomo, some of that moving your way. And this may slow down the evening commute if you are in the northern sections of Hamilton County. Ellettsville, Bloomington, we're keeping an eye on what's developing down to your southwest. That complex of rain and storms extends north into Terre Haute. Heavy rain, lots of lightning, and the potential of some small hail. That's what we're going to be dealing with over the next couple of hours, and the threat of additional rain and storms overnight. Flooding threat continues to increase. We'll cover that in the full forecast.
Thanks, Angela. And we have more weather coverage for you on WTHR Plus. You can check out our live Doppler radar anytime, plus extended forecasts and more.
You can download our TV app now. It is free. And tonight, a look at a U.S. attack on an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean.
The Indian Ocean right there. You see it. The Department of Defense releasing this video here showing the U.S. submarine sinking the ship in international waters. The Trump administration now says the U.S. is doing very well taking out Iran's weapons.
But as Monica Alba reports, lawmakers have questions.
5 days into the war with Iran, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says America is winning decisively.
The mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons.
He praised the attack on an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean, torpedoed by a U.S. submarine. CENTCOM says the U.S. has eliminated 20 Iranian ships in the mission, and the U.S. will soon control all of Iran's airspace.
Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour.
On Capitol Hill, a different battle, with Democrats and some Republicans not satisfied with the administration's explanation on the war.
I have questions after yesterday's briefing, but it was a good briefing.
Both chambers considering a war powers resolution. The Senate expected to vote on it today, forcing President Trump to get congressional authority before going to war.
Under our Constitution, only one entity can declare war, and that is Congress. And this is a war. And how do we know that? Because President Trump says it's a war.
Republicans oppose the resolution, which is not expected to pass. The U.S. is now scrambling to get American citizens out of harm's way, with many countries in the Middle East closing airspace. The State Department is chartering flights and offering military jets.
We've also opened up space available seats as C-17s and other airplanes come in to try to help folks get out.
For many still stranded, trying to leave is a struggle.
When I get to the airport, the police was there yelling and screaming people. And, I say, hey, I am American. I pull up my passport. I am a U.S. citizen. I need to head home. They say, go back to your hotel. We'll update you.
I don't feel the government is really doing enough for everybody stuck in the Middle East.
The war also hitting Americans' wallets. 20% of the world's oil and natural gas is shipped through the Strait of Hormuz, now closed with the hostilities. And that is having a direct effect on U.S. gas prices. The average cost of a gallon of gas is now $3.20, up 22 cents in just 1 week. The White House is expected to meet with defense contractors on Friday, where they will discuss weapons production. The meeting comes amid questions about whether the U.S. has enough munitions to carry out a war that the president says could last weeks or longer. Monica Alba, NBC News, the White House.
And now to Americans abroad and waiting to get home. The State Department upgraded the UAE to a level 3 travel advisory, meaning you should reconsider travel.
Tonight, several Hoosiers are still stuck in Dubai. Jenna Webster talked with one man who says he's getting mixed messages. This sounds so frustrating.
Yeah, and those mixed messages are coming both from the airport, the airlines, and the State Department, he says. So I talked to Eric Foster. He and his wife arrived at their Dubai hotel on Saturday after about 22 hours of traveling. And he says they logged into the Wi-Fi and were immediately told to shelter in place.
As conflict continues between the U.S. and Iran, smoke can be seen from beaches in Dubai.
We're on the beach and looking over to our right, all of a sudden there's a burning building. Now, we didn't hear that impact, but it's just billowing up in smoke like you see on TV all the time. It's like we're actually looking at that, which is surreal to us.
Eric Foster and his wife arrived on Saturday before a scheduled cruise.
Most of the explosions that we've heard is actually the anti-missile defense system working. Thankfully.
Most of the hours are calm, he says, but they hear what the rest of us see on TV.
The pattern seemingly is you hear the fighter jets, you hear another fighter jet, and then you hear an explosion.
8 miles away, a drone struck near the U.S. consulate.
And that was very loud.
Foster is one of many Americans trying to find a way home. A canceled flight yesterday is rescheduled for Saturday.
Emirates, it says all flights are now canceled till March the 7th, but yet we see flights obviously today leaving, and so it's a mixed signal of the airport. Some of the signs or some of the boards say that they're on, some of them don't say. It's like, what do you do?
Tuesday, the State Department posted it was actively securing military aircraft and charter flights for Americans wanting to leave the Middle East. Foster immediately signed up when the state emailed him the form. Then he called,
and they let me know that frankly they weren't aware of any charter program that was in place at the moment, and that there was no plan as far as they knew for any further action to be taken, and to pay it and to just keep up with the website and to try to get updates that way. I mean, I'll be honest, it was a little bit disconcerting.
For now, Foster is checking for open airline seats or is waiting until March 7th, hoping that flight takes off.
Now, Foster says they're hoping to get an update from the U.S. government to kind of help them figure out some next steps here. In the meantime, he says they do feel safe at their hotel, which in all of this is some good news there.
Yeah, thankful for that.
Yeah, it's so fluid. You just feel like anything could happen and change at any time.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for staying with them.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas is going to continue our coverage of the conflict with Iran and the rush to get out of there.
Here's Keir Simmons with a look at what he's working on tonight.
Well, coming up on NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas, we speak to the Americans who are desperately trying to get home from here in the Gulf, fearful and finding that flight after flight is cancelled. We speak to one father who's trying to get home for his son's first birthday. Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates say just today it shot down 121 killer drones and 3 missiles. That's coming up tonight.
And you can watch Keir's full report tonight at 6:30 right here on Channel 13. Breaking news just in at 5. In the last 30 minutes, we've learned former University of Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz has passed away at the age of 89.
If we can, want to give you a live look now. There it is. This is the statue honoring Lou Holtz on Notre Dame's campus. This is right outside the football stadium. He is a Fighting Irish legend. He led the team to the 1988 national championship. The team won 249 games during his time at the school in the 80s and 90s, from 86 through 1996. What a legacy he leaves behind.
Former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard is joining the race for Secretary of State, but not as a Republican.
Our 13 News State House reporter Emily Longnecker sat down with Ballard today about the decision to step away from the GOP and instead run as an independent.
Well, Ballard says stepping away from the Republican Party felt a little awkward at first, but says by the time he made the decision to run for Secretary of State, he was very comfortable doing so as an independent. The 2026 race to be Indiana's next Secretary of State isn't the first time Indianapolis's former mayor Greg Ballard says he's been asked to run for office.
I've told quite a few people I've been asked to run for office for quite a while now, all sorts of different offices, and nothing felt right. This feels right to me.
Ballard says in part it's the United States Marine in him that's brought him out of retirement to seek office again.
I've been in countries, obviously, that don't vote, and so I understand how important that is to the state and to the country, and I want to make sure that we do it the right way.
What's different about Ballard's run for office this time, though? He'll be doing so as an independent.
It is important to note he was a Republican mayor in Indianapolis, and he does have that partisan background and history, but has chosen to not use that running in this race as a candidate.
Keeping that in mind, UIndy political science professor Dr. Laura Merrifield Wilson calls Ballard's decision to run as an independent pretty unusual, but says it could be part of his appeal to voters. According to a statewide survey put out by Independent Indiana, a nonpartisan group working to amplify the voices of independent voters in Hoosier politics, 41% of Hoosier voters they surveyed identified as independent.
And one of the challenges, a lot of times people say that they're independent, meaning they don't identify or affiliate with a party, but they have a tendency to support one party over another.
But what happens when there's an independent candidate on the ballot with the kind of name recognition Greg Ballard has, at least within central Indiana?
Do they select another person who says, I'm independent also?
That question won't be answered until November. But for Greg Ballard, he only has to look back to November 2007, when he unseated a then incumbent Democratic mayor, to know in politics, anything is possible.
What's to be expected is not always what happens.
And coming up tonight at 6, we'll hear more from Ballard about one of his priorities should he become Secretary of State. At the Indiana State House, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
Meanwhile, the incumbent Secretary of State, Republican Diego Morales, has issued a response to Ballard's announcement today.
He sent us this statement, and it says in part, Secretary Morales welcomes all challenges. He then went on to say, and with this recent announcement, it seems we now have 2 Democrats in the race. One is just calling himself an independent.
Bo Bai, the son of former Indiana Governor and Senator Evan Bai, is running for the Democratic nomination for Secretary of State. He issued a statement saying, quote, "This race is a referendum on Diego Morales' tenure as Secretary of State, and we are building the only campaign that can defeat him, put an end to the blatant corruption, and restore the office to all Hoosiers."
Ahead, the health of Marion County.
The big concerns the health department has about the people who live in and around Indy. That's ahead at 5:30. Angela?
Dustin and Felicia, we have flooding threats across central Indiana, lowland and river flooding with more heavy rain on the way. I'll have the timeline in your forecast.
And 3 young children hospitalized.
How a murder arrest led officers to discover a scary situation.